how to embrace the power of authenticity. Welcome to the Soulful and Social Summit, where we uncover the keys to success on both the goal line and the soul line. I'm Katja Rusanen, your host, committed to helping spiritual entrepreneurs share their stories, shine their light, and succeed on purpose. And joining us today is transformational life coach Gregory Vahanian, who has facilitated heartfelt transformation for over 2 decades. So welcome, Gregory. I'm really excited to have you joining us today.
Thank you so much, Katya. I feel very privileged to be here. Thank you.
And before we dive deeper into your presentation, Gregory, could you share with us how has social media played a role in shaping your success?
Sure. Well, it's really transformed things considerably for me in a wonderful way. So I started my coaching practice. I actually started my coaching practice while doing my graduate program in spiritual psychology. Was invited to start working with my classmates in coaching and relationship-related coaching and so on. And then I started to embrace the prosperous coach orientation, the notion of cultivating relationships where one might have an opportunity or recognize in a genuine relationship, this person's navigating territory that may be challenging, and I may see an opportunity. And as a friend or in a social context, there's not a really aligned or appropriate container to offer the level of support that might be available in a coaching context. So there is a model there that makes a lot of sense. And that's how I initially began to build my business. And I found at that time that initially, when I was doing videos, when I started to do videos and create social media content, it was usually in the context of, if I was doing a workshop series, I created a workshop series called Embracing Authentic Masculinity, specifically for men's groups. And I found that the primary way I was using social media at that time was, if someone missed an evening in a 6-week series or an 8-week series, I wanted to make sure they got a taste of something on a video that could serve them. And so it was filling in gaps, and then the occasional opportunity for promotion of a specific event. But I wasn't really motivated, and I didn't really understand the frame of marketing that was most aligned with my values, where things dramatically shift and where I sort of lit up and went, social media is where it's at.
Yay!
There was a point when I had a deep like revelation about the whole thing.
Mm.
And I'm hopeful, and I'm trusting, based on my experience, both in coaching and also in just being part of a community of folks who are light workers, coaches, therapists, consultants of one kind or another. We tend as a group to be highly sensitive, and we tend as a group to be very conscious and attuned to what's in integrity and what's out of integrity. And one of the things that always felt out of integrity, or that I had a measure of discomfort with prior to this revelation, which I'll share, was the notion that I'm creating marketing or sales material specifically to get a conversion, the kind of the get frame of marketing. How am I going to persuade? How am I going to influence? How am I going to bring someone into my business, like a kind of a fisherman of sorts? That always felt off to me. It felt out of alignment. My heart's prayer and my intention from the word go in terms of everything that I do, certainly in my coaching practice, is really to hold space to support a client, a reader, a viewer of a video, a group, always to hold a space where the client or prospective client is having an opportunity to enjoy the revelation of their own heart's wisdom. There was a revelation at a certain point for me, which was I was doing a lot of work, my own personal growth, my own learning, my own refining of my skills as a soul-centered workshop facilitator and designer, as a coach, and so on, continuing. And I was seeing, even with a number of people who I respected very highly, that there was marketing taking place that just felt, I think that the technical word is icky. Comes from the Latin igmanimus, which means I just was very uncomfortable with the whole notion of what I was seeing repeatedly as the imposition of false urgency. Sign up now, or you'll. So there would be the FOMO strategy to feed off of people's fear of missing out, and these kind of different things. And one day I had this revelation. A phrase came to me. I was in a meeting with a large group of coaches. And we were talking about marketing, and marketing that is integrity and that is authentic. And this phrase just popped into my head. It was two words, or three words actually, but two big words: marketing as ministry. And that changed everything for me. And that changed my relationship with social media. That changed my relationship with my business model. I get tender because it's so beautiful. So I kind of feel like for folks who are sort of like leaning in, and I know there's going to be a broad range of folks, different levels of seasoned savviness. Some people who've had a coaching practice for 30 years or 20 years, or who may have a well-established brick and mortar practice, who are just leaning into the online opportunity, largely promoted in part by the recent pandemic and needing to figure out, how do I continue to serve folks? There's different reasons. There may be people just coming out of graduate school or coaching trainings who are younger and maybe hipper to the different technical models and social media savviness. I guess my first message is there's something so beautiful in this initial change. We can call it mindset, to reference Stu Semigran, who is a wonderful teacher, facilitator of insight trainings and so on. Stu has a book called Heartset, and he coined this word heartset. To me, it's a shift in heartset, or maybe it's an alignment with how our hearts are already set. Like, I would like to acknowledge anybody who's tuning into this, who's attending the Soulful on Social Summit. You already have everything you need. Like, you already have, I'm going to touch a little bit on the ideas of authenticity and abundance and empowerment. I just like to start by saying you already have everything. So starting with, you have a service orientation. You have a heart that is I know this about you even before meeting you. I know this because you wouldn't be here if you didn't already have a deep, 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 deep service consciousness and a desire to be a blessing, to touch people's lives in a meaningful, transformative, healing way that can make a meaningful difference in their lives. So inside of me, relative to marketing and relative to social media, where I go inside myself and where this revelation comes in, why would I do anything different than exactly what I'm called to do in terms of touching people's lives?
Beautiful.
Why should there be a distinction? Why should I, as I've heard some people frame it, talking about marketing, even for coaches and so on, why should I frame it as, well, I need to get people in the door so that I can then do my authentic work. I need to point people towards the doorway so that I can serve them. That's not how my mind works. My mind works and my heart works. How might every touch point be an opportunity to offer a blessing?
That's beautiful. And now, before we dive deeper there, let me just, because I see you already going to that presentation and sharing. So
Sure.
before we dive in deeper, I just want to properly introduce you so that people know and can tune in even more. So Gregory Vahanian is the author of Accessing the Wisdom of the Heart, Reflection on Awakening, and has been immersed in continually refining the art and craft of facilitating heartfelt transformation for over 2 decades. And he utilizes his innate gifts within the rich arena of healing and empowerment as an increasingly central calling and area of contribution, as you already started to see what's happening here. And Gregory integrates a broad range of disciplines into his offerings of experiential learning by leveraging an extensive background in martial arts, the performing arts, and master's degree in spiritual psychology. And Gregory happily shares his life with his spiritual partner, also called Five, of over 20 years, and they 2 daughters. And based in Santa Monica, California, Gregory has an active transformational life coaching practice. And during his presentation, Inviting Your Soul to Shine, Embrace the Power of Authenticity, you learn how to transcend those limiting beliefs and step confidently into your soulful power on social media. So I'm sure our audience is now ready and eager to hear more from you. So the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Katya. I get so enthused about all of this. It's it's just such a treat. So as I touched on in my dialogue with Katya, I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity to connect with you. I want to acknowledge you for as I referenced before, your service consciousness and your intentionality to honor your gifts and to expand your reach so that you can make a meaningful difference in the lives of all who might follow your social media and participate in your workshops and so on. I'll start by just acknowledging, well, 2 things. One, I'd like to invite you just to allow your eyelids to close for a moment, just briefly. And I invite you to take a deep breath in and allow that to release. And take a deep breath in to the belly and allow that to release. And now I invite you to be aware of a distinction between taking a deep breath in and allowing your belly to be filled, allowing the air in, welcoming it. and then allowing it to be released. Allowing yourself naturally to be refilled and allowing it to be released. And then open your eyelids. It seems like a maybe fine distinction, but it feels to me so much of what we do is directly connected to the distinction between what we sometimes force or make happen as distinct from allowing and trusting. And regarding authenticity, I think one of the things we can get caught up in, I know I can get tempted, my ego can get tempted regarding authentic sharing via social media, is the notion of coming across as the expert. And I know for me, when my ego is activated and I can buy into the notion of the role of being the expert, I can start running presumptions and control patterns and ways of wearing a kind of a false face, not necessarily something bad, but it can interfere with my ability to just be present and in my heart. So when I allow, let go of the notion of making things happen, something else emerges, something, for lack of another way to put it, more genuine, more authentic. Some may enjoy it, some may like it, some may be put off by it, some may have things surfaced inside of them regarding their own territory or ideas about professionalism or expertise and so on. But I mention this to begin to talk about the idea of authenticity. I believe that each of us, just like we have a fingerprint, a thumbprint that is unique, we're the only ones who have this particular fingerprint. Similarly, each of us is the only one, however we may connect with our tribe in the world, each of us has our own unique energy signature. You have your own unique energy signature. And the only way that you can send a clear signal that can invite folks forward who resonate with your energy signature is by allowing yourself to be seen. I'm just tickled by that whole notion. I think in terms of signals sometimes. I think sometimes in terms of what I do, and I believe this is true for probably most of us, each in our own way, and some might relate and some perhaps not. That's all right. But I think sometimes of the idea of being a lighthouse that's sending out a signal, inviting the ships to know about a safe harbor that's available. And I have an intention to provide and be a part of that safe harbor. But simultaneously, I know that it was never about me being the safe harbor. It's about supporting all of those individuals in discovering the safe harbor within them, the wisdom, the authentic expression, the inner wealth, the abundance, the empowerment that is authentic and true to them. And I really feel strongly that in terms of authentic expression, and I think it's particularly, I mean, it goes across the board, whether it's social media or in any context, but particularly in social media and particularly in businesses that are, and business owners that are interested in representing themselves authentically, it can be tempting to put a mask of expertise, to put a mask of, I'm tempted at times, I have to be mindful. If I do a video, for example, I can be tempted at times to come across as very poised, as very put together, as very, I've learned this lesson and now I'm going to share it. I wish that I was so evolved and so prepared that everything was together like that. It would probably remove a lot of the fun and the pleasure of discovering what's going to happen moment to moment. However, there is a part of me that can feel so tender and so vulnerable. But I recognize that if I'm interested in connecting in a heartfelt, honest way, and to optimize the opportunity to make contact with, to touch the inner folds of my social media audience's heart, then I have to risk what I like to call courageous transparency. Risking courageous transparency. That's what's present for me in this moment relative to authenticity. So when I sit down to do a video, I've been doing this past month, I'll just talk about this past month, I've been having fun doing 60-second and 90-second or less reels most every day. I've missed a day or two, but mostly every day. And when I check inside in my own process of what I'd like to share, I don't look for what's the safe lesson that I learned 20 years ago. I look for what's been challenging for me. Where did I get triggered? Where did I get activated? Part of authenticity as a coach, as a practitioner for me, isn't being fully realized, always together, and eternally in maintaining equanimity and serenity. Otherwise, I would levitate off the chair, and this would be an entirely different video. Rather, the evolving, because it is an evolving process, the evolving mastery and the evolving service that I feel I have to offer when I do a video is not so much I've got it all figured out, but how when triggered, when in disturbance, when I'm having challenges that others may have, or others may have similar relatable ones, how did I apply some of my savviness, some of the learnings that I've integrated into navigating through that challenge, where there then might be a gold nugget that could be useful and of service to the viewer of the social media content or to the reader of the social media content. I know some of us are doing reels or videos, some are writing articles, perhaps on LinkedIn, perhaps carousels. If you don't know what a carousel is yet, I only got on Instagram a year ago, so a year and a half ago, so I'm learning, but having fun discovering these things. But the big distinction that I was referring to earlier on in my conversation with Katya is this distinction between creating content to get or persuade as distinct from marketing as ministry. I can just feel my whole body relaxes. When I think of marketing as ministry, even this is a kind of a marketing. I have an opportunity. I was invited to participate in a summit. The ease, and I've had my own ego stuff. What does that mean? It's a summit. It's my first summit. It's true. I've done podcasts and I've done this is my first summit. Last night I had this moment of feeling pressure about it, and some part of my ego going, it's a summit. It's the top. What is a summit? It means I'm at the top, but I'm not at the top. I'm still learning. I'm at the foothills, figuring things. Oh yeah, but I've summited those foothills before me, and it's all a process of of learning. And in terms of the authentic marketing part, just like any video or article or text-only post, however short, this is an opportunity for me to participate in this idea of marketing as ministry. If you have a problem with the word ministry, find another way to frame it. Marketing as a way to touch lives. Marketing as a way simply to be of service. And in that way, with that model, what I recognize is part of my commitment is to doing what I do independent of whether someone becomes a client or a workshop participant or buys a book or any of these things. It's not outcome driven. My creating of content is much more self-referencing and trusting that if I'm focusing on my own learning and documenting my own learning in a public way, that my own learnings will tend to serve a certain number of people. And I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that in terms of percentage, it could be something like, if we create lots of content, something like 80% of the people, 80% or more, 85% of the people who view social media content from influencers or service providers of one kind or another never buy a book, never take a course, never become part of a membership. Does that make those 85% any less important? Not from my perspective. From my perspective, my job is to serve. And so there are many influencers, therapists who I've never bought a course from, but who I've been touched. I've been blessed. I've been nourished by their offerings in a post on social media. So we never know exactly how we're going to touch and bless a life. But there's something in serving generously, transparently, authentically, that optimizes the opportunity to connect in a heartfelt way, offer a blessing, and operate under the faith that there is more than enough. And that through our service and serving generously, and this consciousness of generosity, of abundance, serving from our overflow, honoring our gifts and serving from our overflow, that there will be, inevitably, it may start out as a kind of priming the pump, but there will, and this is true to my experience, that in time, with steps, in the priming of the pump, the water will start to flow and there will be an abundance. Even if that's 15% of those who are consuming our content. We don't know which 15%. So best to generously serve all. So that's authenticity, just to start. Abundance. I've been invited to address this idea of abundance as well. I want to try to keep this lasered for our purposes, but to touch on the idea that most of the time when we think of abundance, or many of us think of abundance in terms of the external. I'm going to just touch this lightly. I want to invite you, if we embrace the notion, and I want to just to relax everyone's egos and potential positions about this, take everything that I say with a grain of salt. I invite you just to consider what I say. possibly true, check inside. If it's not true for you, that's perfectly fine, then let it go. But if I share something that resonates, I invite you to lean into it and see how it might work for you and how you might integrate it or how it might apply specifically to something you're working on in your business building, your social media content, authentic content creation. So I was going to touch on the idea in spiritual psychology. There is an idea that's embraced. I offer for your consideration that our outside experience, what we experience in the world, is a reflection of our inner reality. I know that that's not a new idea to most of you, but I want to reference it because if, in fact, our outside experience is a reflection of our inner reality, then it's really an inside game, including abundance. How we relate to our own experience of abundance, our own experience of our own inner wealth. And I tend to connect it. It's not exactly the same thing, but I tend to connect inner wealth is often accompanied by a connection to our inherent worthiness. So I just want to invite you to consider, rather than going outside and thinking in terms of what we can sometimes do in pursuit of outside validation and confirmation, beyond our basic survival needs, to connect with a sense of worthwhileness or worthiness and abundance building and connecting by getting a certain number of Instagram followers or a certain number of LinkedIn followers or publishing a certain number of books or getting a certain number of degrees and letters after our name and all the different things that we might pursue that may be in and of themselves really valuable. I don't discount these things and how they can be helpful. They just have absolutely nothing to do with our inherent worthiness. So if we can tune in for a moment to our inherent worthiness, and dare I say, to our own beloved nature, we haven't met, as far as I know, in person. Maybe we have. But I know you're beloved. There is a place inside of you, an inner master, that knows you are beloved. And from that place of conscious awareness and attunement to your beloved nature, there is wealth beyond measure that extends far beyond and transcends any number of social media follower or social media metrics or dollars in the bank or anything else. And from that place of attunement for each of us, including Katya, including myself, all of us participating in this summit, as we attune more deeply to our beloved nature, extending from that is something unique, a kind of a transcendent, essential level Fort Knox, an endless, for clarity, Fort Knox in the US is a place where our money system was originally built, where we had gold. And so dollars were printed based on the amount of physical bars of gold in Fort Knox. And I like to think of our essential qualities as part of our inner gold, which is where I would like to focus this section on abundance. Tuning in, I'm going to just acknowledge appreciation and model this for us for a moment. I appreciate. So this is an invitation for self-appreciation. You can use the same stem sentence, I appreciate, and then fill in essential qualities that you personally embody about yourselves. I'm not talking about doing. We're not human doings. We are human beings. I appreciate my joy. I appreciate my irrepressible enthusiasm. I appreciate my tenderness. I appreciate my childlike nature. I appreciate my groundedness and inner strength. I appreciate my resilience. And so I invite you similarly to begin to tap into appreciation for your inner qualities, your inner essential wealth. And in doing so, I'm prompted to reference a beautiful book by Lynn Twist called The Soul of Money. And in chapter 9, early on, I think it's the second paragraph, she references the idea that what we appreciate appreciates. So one of the ways we can grow our connection and our access to our inner wealth, which as we do, increasingly gets reflected as part of our outer experience, is by taking time each day just to appreciate. I want to touch on abundance. We've touched on abundance and inner wealth. I want to touch on empowerment. But rather than doing a deep exploration of empowerment in a talk format, I'd like to offer a brief guided visualization, and then we'll move to completion. So I'm going to leverage, I've created a guided visualization for us. And it's around radiating healing through social media marketing. And so at this time, I invite you to move within, allowing your eyelids to close. I invite you to attune to the wisdom of your heart. Invoke the presence of your inner master, that one inside of you. You know, Rumi says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. So that inner master is that one who resides in the field that Master Rumi is referencing. Consider that wise, conscious inner master residing in the field is always available to you. Take some deep cleansing breaths, connecting with source energy, however you define that. Imagine a radiant, warm, guiding light above you. This light represents the source of all healing and transformative energy. See it gently descending, surrounding you with its loving presence. Feel it comforting and empowering you by enveloping you. I invite you to set an intention for this visualization, affirming that you're here to connect with your authentic purpose as a light worker, as a therapist, as a coach, however you're called. Affirm your commitment to serving genuinely and touching the lives of your ideal clients through various media platforms. Imagine yourself in a serene and beautiful space representing the perfect environment for your work. It could be your home office. It could be outdoors on a mountaintop. It could be a cozy, healing sanctuary, a vibrant workshop space, or a serene, natural setting of your heart's desires as you imagine it. See yourself supported by energies that support you and a sense of calm. Envision a circle of individuals gathering in this space. Perhaps it's an in-person space or an online community of ideal clients from around the world participating in offerings. tuning into what you have to offer uniquely through your unique energy signature and your unique consciousness. People are tuning in from Singapore, from Mexico, from Australia, the United Kingdom, from the United States. These are your ideal clients who resonate, again, with your energy signature, who genuinely need your healing and transformative services. Feel the enthusiasm and the joyful anticipation in the air as you prepare to offer your special, uniquely expressed blessings. Visualize a brilliant light at your heart center. This light represents your authenticity, your wisdom, and the healing energy that moves in you, through you, and as you. And as you breathe, the light expands and radiates, touching each person in the circle around the world, online. See them receiving your energy with open hearts, feeling understood, supported, and empowered. And now imagine yourself creating various forms of content, Instagram carousels, text-only posts, articles, videos, webinars. See yourself infusing each piece with your authenticity and loving. Visualize your words and creations resonating deeply with your ideal clients, providing them with insights, guidance, hope, opportunities for the revelation of their own heart's wisdom and transformation. That more profound connection with their hearts will allow. Transition now to seeing your ideal clients gathering for group offerings, reading your books, yes, your books, engaging in your membership programs and benefiting from your one-to-one-on-one group coaching and group coaching sessions. Witness the positive transformation they experience as a result of your dedicated service and their courageous participation. And now just take a moment to express gratitude for the opportunity to serve others in this way. Feel the deep fulfillment and the humbling satisfaction that comes from knowing you're making a difference. Bless your ideal clients, bless your work, and place a blessing with all the different platforms that you're able to share your gifts through. And now slowly bring your awareness back to the present moment and feel the support of the ground beneath you and the space around you. Take a few deep breaths and then gradually return your focus to your physical body. And as you go through your day, I invite you to continue to carry this energy. And if you'd like, go back and reference this process, tuning into your heart, tuning into your authenticity, your unique energy signature, your inner abundance, and the authentic empowerment that comes not from being more powerful than or some pumped up, inflated, ego-based sense of empowerment, but the empowerment that comes with a power with orientation that honors your needs, that honors the needs of those you service, that leads with a service consciousness, which I already recognize and honor in you. It's been such a pleasure. I'm tickled to have the opportunity to be here today. We have a couple of offerings coming up that I think Katya is going to reference. But thank you so much, Katya. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. And people, you can go back to this again and again, listen and tune in whenever you need. So that was beautiful. Thank you. And yes, let's talk about the gift that you have promised for everyone here. So could you share a little bit what that gift is and what are the benefits from it?
Sure. So my my intention was to provide a kind of a bonus that would be a natural follow-up to today. And so I'm aware that one of the areas that I'd like to have more time to explore and investigate, that I think could be of value, is the whole idea of limiting beliefs. That's one of the natural sort of, we all have fears and concerns. I think I referenced before, last night I had a little moment where I got in my head and got anxious about, what does a summit mean? And well, I'm supposed to be an expert, and and so I had to lay down on the floor and really tend to my own heart.
Yeah.
And to listen to that tenderness, my own humanness, my own, that younger part that might go, I'm going to have to talk in front of the classroom.
I get that.
So I cried. I laid down. I asked my wife to come in and hold space for me, and I lit a candle and I laid down and I cried. And then after I cried, I was in my heart and go, oh, this is going to be fun.
Yes. And you showed up.
There's different parts of us based on our experience that have, ego patterns, areas we get stuck, fears. Fears, I remember a long time ago hearing this notion, you may be familiar with it, the idea of fears being an acronym for false evidence appearing real. And so, but there's a part of us that doesn't know it's false evidence. There's a part of us, it's very real for that part. And so we create these kind of limiting beliefs or myths that are based on limited. A spiritual teacher that I've learned a lot from says something that I'm going to kind of paraphrase. He says something to the effect of that when we're triggered, when we're activated, when we're in upset, all it really means is we don't have all the information. So inside of me, when I think of like when I'm fearful, now sometimes there are things where there are legitimate concerns, and so we take appropriate action to support our safety and well-being. We don't want to be reckless. That's just a kind of this isn't a judgment, but there, just as an observation, it can be foolhardy to do things that are reckless and not, we have a responsibility to care for, a right and a responsibility to care for our own well-being. So it's our emotional, physical, psychological well-being. So that's not what I'm talking about. But an example would be, I don't know tech. I have to be a tech wizard to go online. How do you make a reel? How do you make a carousel? How do I even create a Facebook professional page, or simple things like that? So, I'm afraid I'm going to divulge too much. Gregory encouraged me to be transparent, but if I'm transparent, they'll know, so maybe there's ideas of imposter syndrome might get stirred up. So I've identified about 15 different limiting beliefs that social media content creators, specifically light workers, coaches, therapists, folks who have a consciousness of service, might have show up. And so in this bonus offering, we're going to be exploring and updating some of those beliefs.
Yes.
In a more empowering and uplifting way. The whole intention is, let's use everything, including the things that show up as issues, particularly those things. Let's leverage them as opportunities to support our upliftment, our advancement, our growth, and our empowerment, and then leverage those things to continue to support the honoring of our gifts and serving the folks who might be nurtured and nourished by what we have to offer.
That's a beautiful gift. So folks, make sure you're going to get that heart-centered updating of limiting beliefs. It is powerful. So get it now. And as we conclude here, is there a special message you'd like to leave the audience with?
Let's see. yeah, this is what's present in the moment. Just, I think, to go back to the whole notion of how we measure our success or how we are motivated to engage in, one of my hopes is that our time together, and I believe it's part of the hope and intention of the Soulful on Summit offering that beloved Katya has initiated and organized for us, is to support our really getting engaged and participating in generously honoring our gifts. And one of the primary frames for me that has made a world of difference is the shift in the criteria. My primary criteria for success when I create what I call a stage one piece of content, that initial piece of content that I create that's approached with a very light touch, is am I refining my ability to talk about this subject? Am I refining my own thought process relative to this territory that feels meaningful and useful to me? That public documenting of my own process, and that being the primary criteria for success, it completely takes me off the hook for being concerned about whether someone's liking it, not liking it, how many commenters, whether somebody becomes a client or not. That's not my business. My business, last thing regarding this, my business is, there's a story of the potter's class. Some of you may be familiar with this. A pottery teacher shared with his pottery students one day, we have an assignment during the next 30 days, and we're going to do a competition to see who does the finest, highest quality pot. And we're going to do a showing at the end of the month, and it's going to be rated by fellow students. He tells the first 24 students that their assignment is to make the finest quality pot. That's their job, and it's going to be judged at the end of the month. Make the finest quality pot. He tells one student in the class privately, your assignment is to make as many pots as you possibly can. So he makes like 30 pots in the course of the month. The other students are all working furiously to make that one perfect pot. At the end of the month, they do a competition. And the one who made the most pots gets first, second, and third prize. Why? Voted on by the students anonymously. Why? Because he was so busy, he or she was so busy being in the engagement, refining their skills, seeing what worked, what didn't work, what was true to their expression, that they developed an expertise and a mastery that evolved out of engagement. That's our job. For me, that's my job, is to continue in my own inner refinement and how I can share that. What other people do with it is not my business, though it is my intention to be a source of nourishment. So hope you found that valuable. And thank you again, Katya.
Thank you, Gregory, for your time and all these valuable insights you've shared today. And to my audience, thank you for tuning in for this powerful Soulful and Social Summit session. It's your time now to share, shine, and succeed. Until next time, bye for now.